Not Fair, Part 2, Part 1 down below. Well, I guess we've gone from Indiana Jones to Titanic, and the ship sank this weekend. She has officially asked for a separation. Oh, we can still have dinner sometime, and maybe even see a movie. But I am just not fun enough for her. I thought at 40, I was supposed to be productive and useful. We went to some stupid class reunion in Santa Barbara this weekend, and I wanted to leave early because the only people she knew were people she worked at Burger Duck in King with. Please, Louise, I simply asked if we could go elsewhere. A place perhaps where they weren't serving $12 drinks where we could sit and talk. I told her that we are drifting apart rapidly and that this concerns me. I said we don't even have any goals as a couple, short-term, long-term, or otherwise. She then told me we did. Pay off debt and get the new clinic running. I said you just described one of your goals and one of my goals, but not any of our goals. She then got pissed and went to Facebook. Perhaps a woman out there can give me some ideas on what makes another woman walk away from a husband of 18 years when there isn't abuse or infidelity on his part. When he is a professional, good-looking, decent man. Is really being not fun sufficient means to snuff a marriage? I am getting to the point where I am ready to say F it, let it die. It seems like the harder I try the worse she becomes. She trades kindness for barbs, patience for hate, and I'm sick of it. I am tired of being last in line, and I am getting to the point that if I need to start a second life, I best get on with it. I accept acceptable error. You have to. A quest for perfection invariably winds up in inaction. No, I am a clear believer in the 96%. It's far enough off the A that it leads you with a margin you may need later. And it is not all-consuming to get there. Also, a lot of women care about financial success. Mine does. It's just that I need to have more of it and less time to please her. Gee, I would like that too. Free time, what an attractive concept. If I was just meeting her today, I do not think we would be interested in one another romantically. We are just too different now, with no commonalities and activities, and only few in beliefs. However, as we have a long shared history and children, I would like to save this union. I am just tired, bloodied, and frustrated from my efforts. You are dead on with your statement that I do expect a lot from other people. And is it unfair to expect similar level of commitment to the one that you have given? Is this I gave this so you should give that notion too contractual to be considered love? Perhaps, but expectations clearly go both ways. It is just easier to overlook our own flaws and hold our mates accountable for theirs. As for cheating because they need attention, I need attention as well. I show love by working hard, but I receive it through affection. I have had many opportunities to cheat over the course of our marriage, and I have always found the strength to say no. Now, I have learned quite well how to stay out of potentially compromising situations, and I speak continually about my children. It is a very protecting strategy. If my marriage were a product on a store shelf, I wouldn't buy it. The cost is much too high for what little satisfaction I receive. However, I have already bought it, so the question now is how to lower the cost and get more utility from it. Perhaps I'm pragmatic, perhaps I'm a jerk, you decide. In 9 days, I will have been married to my wife for 18 years. A lot has transpired in that time. Kids, college, passing, work, etc. In the past few years my wife has grown increasingly more distant from me. After the birth of our first child, who is now 17, she became more of a mother and less of a wife. The trend only continued with the subsequent births of additional children. I am now 40 and feel more alone than I ever have in my life. I am busy with business and have hobbies in my life, but I have absolutely no connection with my wife. She is currently Facebook or cell phoning all day, and apparently hasn't much time for me. We have little bonding, perhaps 6 or so times per month, and enjoy no activities together. I have tried to connect with her, but attempts are typically disastrous. I would like to try to cement some sort of bond between us before our marriage completely dissolves, but I don't know how to do this. She is currently going to a counselor, and per her request I met with him as well. He wasn't really that interested in me. I am not saying I don't have problems. I am saying that for the most part I am a well-adapted and healthy adult. He agreed. I enjoyed the hour I spent with him, however. I felt talking with someone was very cathartic. I would like for my relationship to be better with my wife. I would like to have a better relationship with God as well. I just don't know how to do the first, and that inability is getting in the way with the second, which is causing a lot of turmoil in my life. Even though I have darkly toyed with the option, I could never actually pull the trigger on a divorce. My wife knows this, and I think it allows her a false security in maintaining this broken relationship. Or perhaps her overall actions are just an indication of how little she actually cares for our union, me. On paper I am a good-looking, educated, successful professional, like low 6 figures. With what she brings to the table, she would have a hard, impossible time trading up. So I can understand her lack of motivation to fix this. From my vantage, she seems to be going through some sort of midlife crisis. I think the prospect of turning 40 bothers her greatly. Maybe she is looking back on her life and wishing she accomplished more. Who is to say? Like I said, she really doesn't say a whole lot to me. Anyway, how do you find some kindle to start the fires of love again? What do you begin with? I tried a week of the Love Dare book and it was a ducking train wreck. I've tried talking to her. Doesn't work. I've tried pleading. Doesn't work. I've tried ultimatums. Really pisses her off and doesn't work. I guess I'd have to follow through. Currently, I am just trying to reassure her that I love her. But there are only so many times one can say, "Good night. I love you," and not hear anything back. She is obviously bitter, and I know she doesn't like where we live, city-wise. Our house is nice, but it's not enough. It never seems to be with her. She won't consider even beginning school to finish her master's degree. She's not ready. I already work long days in our clinic, and I have nothing more to give from a work standpoint. I feel if we had goals as a couple, we could accomplish a lot, but it would take work on both of our parts and she won't go there. I am miserable, and I feel alone. An affair is not an option, as I value honor over happiness. Am I missing something? I am tired of reading marriage books. Am I wrong? Is divorce really the solution? Her therapist did say that he would like to meet with us a couple. He mentioned though that he would like to see her again before he did. I was quite agreeable to this, as I would really like to restore some quality back into our marriage. I want to see her commit more to our relationship. So far in her life she has largely depended on other people for everything. First her parents and now me. I would like to see her develop as a human being both emotionally and spiritually. I would also like to see her expend some energy courting me. I have given a lot, and at this point it is hard for me to tell if I really matter to her, or if I am just a paycheck. She says she is done supporting me as a wife. She just doesn't do that anymore. I have tried to explain to her that going to war with your husband is a whole lot like cutting your nose off to spite your face. Creating distance between us only leads to a less satisfying relationship for us both. I know I haven't been the most attentive husband, but from my point of view, I have been neglected need-wise for the duration of our marriage. Once she got pregnant with our first, it was if I was bought and paid for. I won't consider separation. Maybe it is ignorance on my part, but if I leave, I will leave. Trying to float two households would be tight if not impossible without cutting everything in life out that I currently still do enjoy. This means we'd have to sell our house, and in this market, we'd take a serious bath. More unneeded financial stress. I also have kids in school, which would seriously mess them up academically and emotionally. What's the end benefit? My wife gets a growth opportunity. Terrific, but at what cost? I think it would be cheaper to send her to summer camp. Speaking of which, I am currently in the doghouse because my oldest is meeting with an army recruiter today. Oops, and I have had the audacity to present myself as a ridiculously strong male role model his whole life, leading him to the mistaken notion that he can only please his father, me, by following in my footsteps. I believe that's how she explained it to me. Well, better my footsteps than hers. Ducking hippos. Maybe I can join too. I'll have to go and ask him. It's been too long. What she fails to understand is that evil exists, and that sometimes controlled violence really is the only answer. The next time you get a chance, thank a soldier for standing in the gap so we can all go about our peaceful lives. Other than that, my dear leftist wife is so tolerant of everything. Well, with the exception of me. What does she want? Happiness. She told me so. Well, with the duck, I would like some of that too. What does she enjoy? Racquetball, vacations, going to the gym, lunches with her friends. Wow, that's nice as well. Count me in. From my point of view, I cannot understand what more she can possibly want. I bust my back, and she is never satisfied. This should be done differently or that. I need to meet with so-and-so or cancel such and such contract. Why does she say these things? It is because I have mistakenly confided in her, and any difficulty I have she uses against me as ammunition. I would like more money as well, but I just opened a second clinic and there is a period before things pay off. If I didn't work, I'd be rightfully damned as being lazy. Because I do work, I am damned because in her opinion it is too much. I would rather do what she does. I like being around my house and spending time with my kids, but instead of appreciating my sacrifice for her benefit, I personally am tired of my job. For what I do and the money I get there is a disconnect. I have friends who work as reps that do better than I do. However, all other options require travel, and it is important to me and my kids that I see them daily. So, when I read this from you, my snap reaction is put herself in the classroom for 8 years in a clinic. Let her pull ducking long work weeks and deal with the internal struggles of trying to help people who are hurt to the best of your ability. Love without sacrifice, my dear, is not love. It is a ducking catchphrase, bumper sticker. I give my all. It is who I am. Other people's well-being depends on it. I can't cut corners. She should respect this, but no, she resents it. I resent that she resents it. As for war, I have tried to be a peacemaker. God is my witness. The better I treat her, the worse she treats me. Finally, yes, more put-downs. I am very frustrated. I have done nothing wrong. I have become what I am supposed to be, what society says I am to be, what she originally wanted me to be, and now she can't deal with the realities that go with it. It sucks more from my side than hers, because I am left to do the work. I am negative, because I have been wronged. Maybe for a change of pace she should ask herself what her husband would want from his marriage. Answer: A wife who loves and appreciates him for what he does for her and her family. Is that too much to ask? Sadly, I don't respect her. Sadly, she doesn't respect me. She does owe me, as I owe her. We each have responsibilities to one another. We had decided I am the provider. We had decided she is the nurturer. I provide. She nurtures. Apparently, I don't provide well for her, and she doesn't nurture well for me. There you have it, the honest truth. Our marriage is in the crapper because neither of us does their job well. I am not afraid of women. What I desperately want is to have my wife become one and step up. I want her to develop the ability to find satisfaction in herself, and not hold me up to the impossible Jerry Ducking McGuire standard of completing her. I don't even know how to begin to do that. Do you? I am going to step out on my branch and speak for myself and dare say my fellow men when I say that above all else, we want is a stable, rational, loving mate. It's not just about bonding. Been there, done that. It is about the deeper connection, actual intimacy. That is true attraction. That is true desire. That is what we once had. That is what I want back. As for knowing what is in her head, my dear wife is actually quite confused at the moment. Her actions scream that. No, it is not because she may or may not have had an affair. It is because she can't remember where her car keys are. She loses expensive cameras. She can't recollect why she went to a certain store. She sleeps too much. She has a decreased desire. She eats comfort foods. Need I go on? I could. Am I concerned? Yes. Will she let me help her? No. So, I get to watch and see what enters into my life next. Fun. Am I having a midlife crisis? No, don't think so. Do I have regrets? Yep. And it sounds like we share a lot of the same ones, Sandy. I think that's why our posts resonate so much with one another. Because we have both been on the other and same sides of the fence. Few days later, well, my wife and I decided to separate today, and ironically enough it happened on the way home from a funeral. I suppose this is the part where I should write that my heart is broken and I'll never be able to go on. But I don't feel that way. I feel as though a heavy clamp has been removed from my soul. I feel lighter and at ease. I feel at peace for once in the longest while. I truly regret what this will do to my kids, and I am the first to admit I am a selfish bastard for doing this. No, there is no other woman. No, I am not obsessed. I am just someone who was trapped in a relationship with a woman who was like a black hole to joy in my life. Today in the car as we were driving home, she began to talk about her concerns that our son couldn't make it in the army. She said we would have to support him when he washes out because he was not designed to be in the army. I said that even though I think he should have researched the decision more, it is his decision to make and we need to prepare him to be successful now that it has been made. So started the final fight that led to the dissolution of 17 years and 359 days of marriage. During our verbal escalation she suggested that a separation might do us good. Well, let's just say that I couldn't have been more vocal in my agreement, and I met her bet and raised the ante with divorce. She is at her mom's house tonight, as her mom is currently on vacation. On Monday, I will contact a realtor that I know and have our house placed on the market. I feel bad for our kids. I feel bad for her. I feel bad for me, but I know this is the right decision for my life. I hate who I have become in the 21 years we have been together. I cannot begin to describe the weight that has been lifted from my heart. I no longer feel bitter or angry inside. I feel hope. Maybe tomorrow it will hit me and I'll feel different. Maybe tomorrow I'll grieve for a marriage that once brought me so much happiness. But I don't think so. Is this reaction normal? I feel like a very dear friend has died after years of being sick and suffering. I feel loss, but to a much greater extent I feel relief that the pain is finally over. I can't be the only one like this. Am I? What else should I begin to do now? Do I close out joint credit cards? Do I tell immediate friends and family members? There are no violence issues in our marriage, so I am planning to stay with her and the kids until the house sells. Is this unrealistic? She was supposed to go out with the girls tonight, but she is understandably upset about what transpired. I feel as though I have been given some time to prepare, and I am beginning to look through financial records. With the market the way it is, when our house sells, we will be about $70,000 south. So our net worth is actually net debt. However, she will have a stake in my clinics. Will I have to buy her out, or will I be allowed to essentially keep these free, as it is from my work there that she will derive her alimony? I don't want a ducking lawyer, and I am more than willing to provide for her and especially any of our kids that may choose to live with her. However, knowing my kids, I think they will split evenly between us. Please, any thought? I don't feel generous even now, in the pre-lawyer stage. I do feel a responsibility to my family, especially my smaller two, as I know they will stay with their mother. I will provide for them the best I can. Is it advisable to make an issue about her alleged affair, or do I try to set a calmer tone and take the high road? I know a thing or two about a thing or two, and I was able to peek back across the sands of time and look at her last 3 days or so of computer traffic. I have found a few items that are, shall we say, very awkward for her. Specifically chat conversations with a high school friend that are a bit too friendly. Anything for you, hot redhead, and I have always had a crush on you sort of stuff. I have saved them as a file in a records folder. Do I try to collect more of these as it supports my grounds for divorce? Do I contact the ex-wife of the OM for those records she once offered to me on a rainy fall day? I always knew in my gut she cheated. There was a change in her demeanor that was as palpable as a tumor. Sadly, that is what it was, a tumor. It spread through our friendship, metastasized to trust, and finally, consumed our love. I would like to tell you that this was a sin that I was big enough to forgive her of in marriage, but no, I am not. Ironically enough though, I am no longer angry like I was. I have let go. I know this is healthier for me. Even reading their conversation, I felt no rage, only a sad sense of how far my wife has fallen. No kickbags, no late-night trip to the gym, only acceptance. At some point after this is over, I would like to archive these last few weeks of posts so my wife, ex-wife, never wrote that before, can see my true mindset and know what exactly lead me up to today. Also know that we make decisions, and based on these for good or bad, we are left to deal with the consequences as is everyone around us. I wish you well. I just no longer wish to remain your husband. I have told her I would like to have a quiet dinner tomorrow with her to discuss a basic timeline towards our divorce. And she seemed non-committal. I am not sure why, other than she is completely floored that I said this. And a bit shaken as what to do now that we have gotten here. I can't imagine a situation in which I will change my mind from its present course. The sad irony is that I know I am going to get messed up financially for doing this, especially if I file. My advice to anyone who is out there and struggling to know what to do with a troubled relationship is attend a funeral. It will remind you of just how fleeting life is. So please people, love if you can but leave and live if you must. Tomorrow holds no guarantees. The plot thickens. My wife claims that the picture I intercepted were just jokes between old friends. I stated, I don't joke that way, to which she truthfully replied, you don't joke at all. Nevertheless, she claims that the person MB is just an old friend. She offered to pull him up on Facebook. She said he's like 350 pounds and on oxygen, and that in no way could I actually think that this could be a legitimate conversation. She apologized if my feelings were hurt and reiterated that she has always been faithful. Is this too coincidental? Am I a sucker to believe her? She invited me to do whatever I thought was necessary to regain my trust, and then began to ask for a few concessions in return. I acquiesced and agreed to a timetable for counseling. She said she could go either way but stated basically that if we go to divorce court I would pretty much be losing everything financially. And she would see to it that I didn't get any of the kids. That is my biggest fear, and I still do love her. Would now brown cow. I guess I'm a little naive, but exactly how would a separation help? We already see very little of one another with our respective schedules. It's the distance that we already have that's ruining us. I think we need a together nation, some she and me time to reconnect. We have had only one weekend alone in nearly 18 years of marriage, and even that was cut a day short because of an emergency. If that is not twisted, then I don't know what is. I do not want to come home to an empty house. I just did that for a week or so when they were in Chicago and I hated it. I know people talk about staying together for the kids, but I want to stay together so I don't lose any of my kids. My wife and I may have issues, but I love all of my kids dearly, and the thought of not seeing any of them is unbearable. She has made it very clear that with my schedule it would be impossible in her opinion to have custody of any but the oldest. I realize that where my kids would live isn't her decision for the most part to make, but I am not ready for a drag-out, dog-eat-dog legal battle either. She has been a lot nicer to me since Seri, and I can see glimpses of my old wife there. She says she still loves me very much and would like to continue with our marriage. I would like the same. Since then, we have each agreed to make one change that the other needs. My request was for affection, not necessarily a good time, but just touch in general. Hers was for security. She says she needs us to start aggressively saving for retirement and paying down debt. It seems a reasonable exchange as better my overall position. Well, so much for change. Last night it was pick one kid up from Jazz Workshop and another from her mom's house after work, feed them, and get them ready for bed, while she goes out for some girl time. She got home around 10:30, but I just rolled over and feigned sleep. This morning was a 4:15 workout with my Ranger wannabe son, clinic, and practice. I imagine she is up now and will probably go shopping. I'm ranting, but there is a thought behind my rant, and that thought is parity. How many people out there feel their spouse commits as much to the family as they do or more? If not, do you feel resentment or bitterness? Finally, if not, how have you managed this from becoming caustic or detrimental to your relationship? If my post came off as arrogant, I apologize. What you are sensing is frustration more than hubris. The difficulty I am having is that I am trying with all of my core and fiber to be a good husband, a good father, a good doctor, etc. However, it is sort of like being an alchemist, and I am starting to suspect that this formula doesn't exist. Women often lament about being torn between career and family. Well, welcome to a professional man's world. I understand your struggle well, and it is a be my wife's solution when she is pressed by life is simply to cut back on the wife portion of the recipe as I am a full-grown, tough, black belt, ex-military man. I should certainly be able to handle it. Well, my response is no, I cannot handle it when my wife, who is supposed to love and nurture me, decides that she is too tired to even talk or snuggle with me at night for 5 minutes. My problem is one of parity. Latest example. Our 6-year-old wasn't feeling well last night, so she spent the night with us in bed. My wife had previously stated she was going to get up early at 6 a.m. this morning for her workout, as she had a lot to take care of today with the kids' schools. Well, I slept in the same bed she did, and my sleep number is a 65, not a 100. So the kid rolls downhill towards me. God, does she have bony little knees. Anyway, 4:15 this morning I am up getting my Ranger wannabe son ready for his morning workout. I return home at 7 a.m. and she's still in bed. She said she'll go later. Well, who do you suppose will be having pizza tonight for dinner? Me. Why? Because she will shave the time it would have taken her to make a decent and healthy dinner off my side. And well, what kid doesn't love pizza anyway? She'll rationalize. I know this is petty, but it illustrates a difference. My sleep sucked too, but I got it up and still did everything that was expected of me, and everything I had committed to. I trained my son, saw patients all day, and at best had 5 minutes to myself, just enough time to pee, quaff down a couple of protein bars, and a cup or 3 of coffee. In short, I have not eaten anything that any person would actually recognize as food. Dinner is really the only true meal I eat in a day, but if she is busy, what will she cut? Dinner. She'll bring home fast food, and I don't eat junk, so I am sort of like that fox and stork in the kids' book, left with nothing to eat. Can I make food for myself? Sure. Would I rather not after pulling a 10-hour straight shift? Yeah. She will then make a production about how difficult and impossible her day was. Well, guess what, gang? My day was long too, and I had absolutely no downtime either. However, who will be frowned down upon tomorrow morning when he decides to go to practice for 90 minutes? Me. There is no parity. She places herself under different operational rules than me, and frankly I resent it. I sacrifice for the team, family constantly. She only sacrifices for the kids, and it pisses me off, if you know what I mean. Sincerely, a husband that deserves more. Wow, I stand corrected. Friday night she had a wonderful dinner ready when I got home. She did say that she was running behind all Friday morning, so she decided to cut out her gym time as she had slept in. I was impressed, as this hasn't exactly been the norm, and complimented her warmly for both dinner and being selfless. Said a morning was very nice, but I am not going to write about any of that. I then went to practice with her blessing. We spent the afternoon together shopping for this and that, and it was pleasant. No, shopping always sucks, but I enjoyed her company. This evening, she had a girl party to attend at a friend's house, as an old acquaintance of hers had flown in from Peru, or some other ungodly place. She invited me, but I told her, as no one's husband was going to be there except for the hostesses, that she should just enjoy herself with her lady friends. All in all, a complete 360 from my post last Saturday when our entire world fell apart following a funeral. The moral: there is always hope. Here is to one day at a time. I sound like I'm obsessed. I guess I am, a love addict. 1 month later, my marriage has been twisting in the wind the last 2 or so years. If you're curious, previous posts outline the reasons why. My wife recently has had her ACL reconstructed, and I think I have been most gracious in assisting her with her recovery. However, it appears that the more I do for her, the less she does for herself. I feel I am qualified to make this assessment, since her surgery is related to my medical specialty, and I live with her, even though I have not been directly responsible for her care. Aside from making her initial diagnosis and referring her to a surgeon, I have been picking up her slack around the house, and I'm getting a little tired of it. I understand she can't clean. I have no problem there, but could you go over our 2nd grader's spelling list or read with her? How about correcting an 8th grader's math? Maybe. How about getting up and making your own breakfast? I am getting killed going from my clinic job to my single parent plus 1 job. I don't get a lot of sleep, perhaps 4 to 6 hours on a typical night. I function well on this, but not now that she is waking me up every 90 to 120 minutes for something. Mentally, I am getting burned out, and what started as a labor of love is now beginning to become an exercise in resentment. For the record, she was frigging horrible to me when I had knee surgery, because she attributed it to my martial arts training. The day after I had my procedure, she went to her 20th class year reunion, and I stayed home with our kids. How's it for compassion? I had no problem with that though, as in truth I didn't care to go anyway. The point I am trying to make is that I wasn't an invalid. Post-Opus Day 1, I was doing more and without whining than she is doing on Post-Opus Day 12. Last Sunday, I walked in on a conversation she was having with her girlfriend about who generally is tougher, a man or a woman. I graciously said it varies based on the individual, and that nothing in one's 23rd chromosome inherently makes them tough or weak. She said she felt women were tougher hands down, and I almost fell over laughing, as I couldn't find anything in her life for her to base this opinion on. In closing, I told her last night that she is killing me and that she needs to step it up. I told her I am aware of her post-opus precautions as I ducking established them for her. And I have no desire in breaking them, but that doing too little is as bad as doing too much. Am I out of line for being firm with her, or should I just shut up and try to care for her even more? As maybe that is what she is appreciating. As normally I am not the most caring person, my wife would call caring, fluffy, sugary, doting on someone as personal attention. Not actual need is what defines care. I would call caring, providing people with what they cannot provide for themselves, until they are able to provide for themselves. See, a major problem in our marriage is one of parity. Two different standards exist for two separate people. She has decided that my standard can be higher than hers as I can handle it. Well, the fact a person can sprint fast is not indicative of the fact they can sustain that pace. I agree she is not my child. The fact is, I expect more and get more from my children than I routinely get from her. My oldest is a senior in high school and is preparing to become a ranger next year. My wife was of the opinion that he couldn't do it. I agreed. An honest assessment said he couldn't even hope to complete training where he was at. The difference, she said she'd support him when he fails out. I decided to let him begin training in the mornings with me and have shifted my program to prepare him for the rigors of being a special operator. After just 8 weeks of 4 a.m. mornings, he isn't even the same kid both physically and mentally. I personally feel she is depressed and has utilized exercise as a means to modify or adjust her behavior. Nothing wrong with that, and I applaud her for a healthy choice. Problem now is guessing who can't vigorously exercise. Her. So, she reads, sleeps, and sticks me with everything. Why am I upset? Well, reason 1, it's not good for her. Reason 2, it's not good for me. Finally, she does have to meet a standard. I do too. I am tired of people writing that love is unconditional, and then lamenting how unsatisfied they are with their spouse in the next paragraph. We all have to perform. We all have standards. Don't agree? Have an affair or two on your husband and see how unconditional his love becomes. I will talk directly with her. It seems to be a very simple but appropriate suggestion. She is getting around a little better as of yesterday. We went to our clinic and I reassessed her knee. Her range of motion was fine, but she still lacks quad control. Her knee would probably benefit from being drained, but she was horrified by the idea. She said she thought I was joking in the car when I mentioned it. I said, regardless of any issues we may have, I don't play with anyone's care. A simple enough statement, but she could tell I was sincere and took comfort in it. I will be patient and wait for her to bring herself up to speed. Part 3 coming very soon. Let me get a nap, and I'll go back working on